Awesome. Hello. How's it
Hey,
going?
yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, glad we can chat. Happy Wednesday. Has week been treating you far so good?
Yeah, yeah.
Good, good. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. I titled this Lightning in the Philippines. I know you're working on the pouch wallet out there, and I was reading a lot about Bitcoin Island earlier this week. And, I thought it'd be really cool to hear a bit about Bitcoin Island, how things are going out there, and the wallet. But are you located there currently yourself in the area?
So, uh, crazy thing, I've never been to Bitcoin Island yet. I'm going in 2 weeks. But we have Bill from our team who lives there in Boracay, and Bill is the guy that has onboarded like 300 merchants in the past 6 months to make Bitcoin Island the most viable place in the world to live off of Bitcoin. So Bill has been, living on the island and paying with nothing but Bitcoin for the past 3 months, which is pretty sweet. And I'm very excited to go in a couple weeks.
Very cool. That's exciting. I definitely want to talk more about that and like the process Bill's done to onboard 300 merchants. I guess, before we dive into all this fun stuff, share a little bit of a background of Pouch and your passion for building a wallet for the Philippines.
Yeah, so my wife is from the Philippines. We met like 7 years ago online, something like that. And so I've gone every year to the Philippines. I mean, she lived in the Philippines at the time when we met, and then we spend several months a year back in the Philippines. We are actually in Seattle now, but in the process of fully relocating permanently back to the Philippines. And so I've been working kind of across time zones, and we have a small team of 6 employees in the Philippines as well, including Bill. And so the reason that I started Pouch was, well, one of the biggest reasons is we send money back home on a monthly basis, basically support the in-laws who are kind of retired on a very fixed income, and we purchased a house in the Philippines as well, so we have to like pay our bills. And it's very difficult to get money. Well, it's been made easier by Western Union and Remitly, but it's still a little expensive. And KYC stuff really sucks. Is another major reason. So what was my kind of kick in the pants to get started was we had a friend who needed to bring her son to see the doctor, and she didn't have money for the medical bill. And I tried sending a remittance, and it didn't go through. Got blocked by KYC for several days, and she never got to bring her son to the doctor. And he actually had an internal infection that got really bad, and he passed away without treatment. So that was my kick in the pants to do something about it. And I was already a Bitcoiner for a short while and was very interested in the Lightning Network as a hobby. So that was the big motivator.
Very cool. And so, one question I have: if he's onboarded 300 people, Bill, what has been the process for choosing who to onboard? Like, did you guys start with like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like people who supply clean water and good food, or do you go straight for like gasoline and corner stores? How did that process look for trying to onboard that area?
Yeah, so it's kind of a different economy because Boracay is a very tourism driven economy. There's maybe 10,000 people living permanently on the island, like as a regular population. But Boracay sees a couple million tourists a year, so it's a very very heavily driven tourism economy. So we actually focus first on the popular tourist destinations. So restaurant activities, water sports like scuba kind of things, and also hotels. So, because the reason is we're basically proving the utility of the Lightning Network for cross border, or rather borderless kind of payments. So, somebody from the United States could come as a tourist and bring their Cash App or Strike wallet and actually pay seamlessly with their USD Lightning wallet or their Bitcoin Lightning wallet, like from anywhere in the world. So, we're proving that it's more efficient, less of a hassle to go to the ATM machine and get cash, much lower fees. So that's why we started with tourism spots.
Awesome. I know I have a few friends that do remote work from the Philippines, and whenever I started learning about Pouch and I spoke with them, I was just like, guys, have you ever used this wallet? And do you even have any Bitcoin? And a lot of them, they just said they haven't used Bitcoin yet, and they hadn't heard the wallet. And I'm curious, like as the businesses adopt it, and as like let's just say Americans travel there, because we all know Bitcoiners, especially in America, we love to like travel to other countries. Is there any type of strategy to get it to other parts of the country upon businesses adopting the usage?
Yeah, so we're focusing heavily in Boracay and haven't done any like on the ground onboarding of outside of Boracay itself for merchants. There have been some who have self onboarded, so just around like they're interested in Bitcoin, they wanted to accept Bitcoin at their business, so they just like go online and sign up, right, and start doing it. And we don't have any on the ground like sales or lightning evangelists or whatever we want to call them in other places in the Philippines. But so like stage one here is, since Boracay again is the primary tourist destination in the Philippines, even Southeast Asia, like we're leaning into that because everybody around the Philippines will have at least heard of Pouch anytime they go on a vacation to Boracay, and that'll make it easier, I think, to penetrate the rest of the islands and cities around the Philippines. So as of today, we haven't actively started onboarding outside of Boracay, but we'll do it eventually. Really,
Sure.
actually, so it's interesting that you mentioned earning though, because there's what's it called, Stackwork, like a microtasking platform where anyone can like sign up and do these like small tasks and earn sats. And Philippines is actually one of the top countries, most popular and best quality, often stack workers or any kind of microtasking. There's plenty of apps that pay to do microtasks, but Stackwork is the one that pays in sats. Other services use PayPal usually, which really sucks for a lot of reasons, but getting PayPal balance out into the local economy is insanely expensive and challenging. So Stackwork is great. Taskers will earn sats. Historically, they've used Wallet of Satoshi to withdraw and then sent to like a local exchange and paid high fees. But now many of them have self onboarded to Pouch as well, since it's much more efficient to send a Lightning payment directly to a Philippine peso Lightning wallet. Which, by the way, Pouch is like Strike or Cash App for the Philippines. So we have Philippine peso balances, then it's just interoperable with the Lightning network and feels like magic.
Okay, very cool. And on your website, I see on Bitcoin Island, like on the map here, it shows all the different types of vendors and things. This is pretty cool. It looks like everyone that's onboarded to accept Bitcoin, are they using Pouch specifically for their payment processing, which allows your map to dynamically update, or how does that function?
So Bill is grooming the map regularly. So when somebody signs up and starts accepting Bitcoin payments, he'll add them to the map. We have a few gig workers around the island who basically it's just like their part-time job to do some Bitcoin education and onboard merchants. And then also we have them go around and validate that businesses are still accepting Bitcoin, because I think this is something that every Bitcoin community deals with is when there's not enough spenders, vendors forget how, or they just stop caring about accepting Bitcoin. So there is some churn. So
Yeah.
we're always like grooming the map, like validating that places are still accepting Bitcoin. We keep them on the map. If we try to pay with Bitcoin and they're not accepting Bitcoin, we'll take them off the map, so that if you go to a place on the map, they should actually accept Bitcoin, right, and not have like deleted the app or stopped accepting.
Nice. Okay. What's the response been thus far from like some of the businesses that have had the most adoption? Is there a fair amount of tourism coming through of Bitcoiners, maybe like through your network, who are referred there? What is that looking like as far as keeping that adoption consistent, like you mentioned?
Yeah, so we've had some Bitcoiners move to the island, like relocate. Oh, well, maybe not permanently, but at least for like a long-term stay. So for the past couple of months, even we've had folks living on the island, and that's great because obviously they're living there and spending every day, keeping the merchants happy and excited about accepting Bitcoin. And then we have tourists, had local, like a lot of local Filipino tourists who come interested in Bitcoin Island, so to speak, are actually surprisingly like Web3 kind of shitcoiners who have never heard of the Lightning Network before. And I would say it's really cool to turn a shitcoiner into a Bitcoiner once they experience the Lightning Network and how it like works in reality and has incredible utility.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, very cool. Well, what's going on coming into 2023? I saw that you were at a couple of conferences recently, and that's how I learned about your product. But tell us a little bit about maybe what has been executed this year and what's just coming in the future for Pouch.
Yeah, so I'll start by giving a shout out to the Adopting Bitcoin conference because Bill was there. Well, Bill and I were both there in El Salvador last week, and Bill gave a talk exactly like kind of the discussion we're having now. He focused on the sales pitch. He has a technical sales background, so he's really good at it, and basically gave like an educational kind of course on the main stage at the Adopting Bitcoin conference. Like, what words do you use, right? And what's the process to onboard, get a merchant to agree to accept Bitcoin payments from a sales perspective. So quick shout out for that one. So 2022, we actually launched the app around 8 months ago with banking rails in the Philippines. So we're a very new app. Like Bill moved to Boracay around 6 months ago. So we went from 0 merchants to 300 in the past 6 months. So we've before 2022 there was nothing really, like Pouch didn't exist. So yeah, we've been doing a lot of integrations, like local banking integrations for the past 8 months. We're trying to build the best e-wallet in the Philippines. There's this traditional e-wallet called GCash. I mean, it's more like Venmo, I guess. Like it's its own like QR payment system and its own like network of fiat balances. But it's by far the most popular e-wallet in the Philippines. And a big reason why is because it has conveniences for everyday life. So, for example, in the Philippines, you don't often buy like a prepaid phone plan that just is always on. You actually subscribe kind of on a daily basis. Like when you need to use your phone data, you'll buy like 100 gigs worth for the day or something, or 100 megabytes, sorry, worth for the day. So that's a feature built into the Gcash app. So we actually added that a couple months ago. So now our users can take care of their like kind of like a daily need in life by just like buying directly from the Pouch app. So most exciting thing that we're working on now though, and hopefully we'll be able to launch something by Q1 is actually a what we're calling our Remit API. It's a pretty simple API that just allows any other Lightning service to integrate with the Philippine banking system via the Lightning Network. So, for example, well, just generally, broadly speaking, like an e-wallet in another country with like fiat rails in US or Europe could integrate into the Pouch API and build like direct bank transfers to the Philippines from the foreign e-wallet. So it makes it more seamless than Western Union even, and pricing is a fraction of the cost of Western Union. I mean, best exchange rate possible. So yeah, Lightning enables that. Our biggest problem with teaching people to use Lightning for remittances is just the usability really sucks. Teaching people like download 2 apps and copy and paste QR codes between your apps, like not a great experience, very difficult to teach. But building this, so again, like we're integrating now some e-wallets in around the rest of the world. When that launches, it's going to be a huge game changer for remittances to the Philippines. So that's what we're most excited about now.
That is great. Yeah, I was obviously it's in America. I'm located here in America, but I was showing a grandmother last night. Like this kid was selling some hot chocolate, and I was just like, "Do you have a phone?" And I didn't think this 10-year-old would have a phone. And then the grandma was like, "Yeah, she's got her own iPhone." And I was like, "Go get it. Let me teach you how to do Bitcoin." And she broke out the wallet of Satoshi, and it showed like, "Do you want Lightning, Bitcoin on chain, or do you want your address?" And I was like, let's just click the lightning one. And that was kind of, I think, confusing for them and having to scan and these different things. So I'd agree. Like
Yep.
someone with their very first interaction, if they're having to see like 4 or 5 options and go through like scanning, copying and pasting, it even made me feel a little overwhelmed. Like I just do it naturally, but when you go to explain it to someone, you're like, this could be made a lot easier.
Yep. It's too many steps.
Very cool. Well, nice. I'm looking also at one of the latest blogs here, like mentioning like the earning via Thunder Games. Have you been getting a lot of feedback about people playing with Thunder Games down there? Like, what's the response? I know that's like a very great way to onboard people to Bitcoin. Has that been picking up in the Philippines as well, the gaming side?
So gaming, like play to earn gaming, has been really popular for the past several years. Like Axie Infinity like exploded in the Philippines, and then it imploded. But like, yeah, it's really trendy in the Philippines. Now, Thunder Games, I don't think has too much usage in the Philippines yet. But what we did, we just built into the Pouch app the LNURL withdraw implementation so that Thunder Games could add Pouch as a option from like their cash out side in the Thunder Games games. So that one actually they just rolled out like a couple days ago. Like Pouch is now in the list of supported wallets. So we're just starting now to look into how to market this to the Philippines, and well, hopefully it's even like self-marketing because some people will be earning and then like tell their friends, hey, we're earning sats and this is pretty cool. You can just withdraw directly and get some Philippine pesos out of it. So yeah, super early though, like literally a day or two ago.
Awesome. Well, how has been I have a question because I know you said your wife's originally from the Philippines. Did she orange pill you or did you orange pill her?
So it's kind of an ongoing process of me orange pilling her. I originally thought Bitcoin was a scam or a fad, as probably most people did. But in 2020? Yeah, like start of COVID lockdowns where governments were like shutting down entire economies and replacing economic output with money printing. That's when it clicked for me that like, oh, this is the reason for Bitcoin. Where before I never really looked into it or tried to understand the philosophy behind Bitcoin, but it made total sense at that point. So I'm kind of a late Bitcoiner actually, but I got fully orange pilled at the time, and then yeah, have been orange pilling my wife progressively over the past couple of years.
Nice.
Though she still jokes that I'm in a cult, so
Aren't we?
but it's true. I will embrace that. It's a good cult.
That's so funny. So another question here is because your wife is from there and you guys are moving back to her home, is there any like possibility that because she's local and obviously she can like translate and communicate better, is there any plans to potentially communicate with the local government like once you build this base case to try to, help advance like adoption like on a national level, like strategically what does that look like if you've even begun thinking that far ahead? Obviously, it's a little early, but I'm just very curious on how we can expedite like the nation state adoption from your perspective.
Yeah, I'd love to get like the right audience to convince the central bank to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet and convince the government to like, yeah, kind of like top down adopt Bitcoin, just like El Salvador has done. But well, actually, so far we've had some interaction with like local governments, and we've had to with the central bank a little bit, even like for the sake of like licensing application process and integrating with banks. Like that's really hard to do without some government approval, right? So we've had some, but yeah, I would love to have like a bigger seat at the table in the national government, right? And orange pilled in as best I can. The case for Bitcoin in the Philippines is really really strong because remittances are 10% of the country's GDP, and since the Lightning Network enables faster and more affordable remittances, the entire nation could save like 1 to 2% in GDP just from fees, just from remittance fees. And then another 5% of the GDP is tourism, and again, like we're proving in Boracay, Lightning is great for tourism. So yeah, I think we have a really compelling case for the government to get 100% on board with Bitcoin. But for now, seems to be like Binance is lobbying for Web3 kind of. I mean, they had an announcement for they're doing like some kind of blockchain education or crypto education in the universities, and I don't trust that really that they're giving like a really good education because I think like if it was a good education, they would call it Bitcoin education and stick to those values. So I'm not sure what Binance is planning to teach in the schools, but yeah, I think that's just kind of a symptom of lack of understanding of the philosophy behind Bitcoin and kind of more of a general like sentiment that the government thinks like, oh, blockchain sounds cool, sounds like it's Web3 blockchain technology is the future, and we have to like promote it in our country so that we don't get left behind. Well, they don't really understand anything beyond that. So yeah, they're like pretty open, but hopefully I can teach more. I'm sure that'll just take time. We'll have to get the right connections to get the right audience with the leadership in the country.
Yeah. So you mentioned it's a healthy portion of the GDP. Did you say it's 1%? Was that right?
So the remittances are actually 10% of the Philippine
10.
GDP. Yeah,
Okay.
so the fees
So,
alone are around 1% of the entire GDP. So if we can take those fees as close to zero as possible, the country saves literally an entire percent of their GDP.
So I remember whenever I first learned about El Salvador a couple years ago, and how people would travel, 3, 4, 5 hours one way just to send money. Is it that bad in the Philippines as well, where it could be a half a day simply to send money, or is it a little less extreme, like in terms of time investment to simply send a remittance?
Yeah, so on the sender side, it's super easy. So let's say traditionally, you'd log into Western Union. I mean, you have to first create an account, go through KYC review, and depending on the service, like sometimes KYC can take a while, but usually it's like pretty instant. So on the sender side, link a US bank account. ACH transfers take several days. So if you want an instant, you have to link a debit card and pay kind of a fixed fee on top of the regular exchange rate spread. But then, yeah, it's a pretty simple process. You can just do it online from the US. Now, on the receiving side, it depends. The most common way to get the cash is to go to either a Western Union, but it's much more common nowadays to go to a pawn shop. So there's several pawn shop chains around the Philippines that you can go pick up your cash. And it really depends where you live. So if you live in a very rural area, it could take several hours, half a day, even like be an entire day trip to go get your cash. And since private car ownership isn't all that prevalent, you most likely have to take public transportation, and it's not like a very direct route necessarily to the pawn shop. So yeah, it could easily, even if you do live in the city itself, like it could easily, with transportation plus waiting in line, could easily take several hours out of your day.
I haven't really taken much personal interest in digging to like what are folks in El Salvador doing who are using Lightning for remittances. Like, what is that extra time being allocated to, just as far as, not necessarily GDP numbers going up, but just like actual productivity and like value created locally, because, some things might take a while to get started. Like, let's say, spinning up a new farm or a small business, it might not be profitable in the first year, but down the line, it'll be really interesting to see what that time enables people to do just on the education side, the entrepreneurial side, and so on.
Yeah, in El Salvador, it's pretty interesting too because the only wallet with banking rails is Chivo, and nobody trusts Chivo. Like Chivo has a reputation of like disappearing with people's money, so that's caused a problem for adoption in El Salvador. And I know like Bitcoin Beach Wallet or Strike or any other, maybe IBEX, like any other service operating in El Salvador really wants to add banking rails so people can actually withdraw to a Salvadoran bank account. But for now, they're like Chivo is like a necessary step in the middle. So it's really a huge problem for adoption in El Salvador. Hopefully, the banks, there is no like open banking API, or well, when I've looked into it and like conversations with the other teams, it seems to be there's no open banking API, but it's being worked on. So hopefully, we'll see those wallets have like direct bank transfers, so people don't have to rely on trusting Chivo as like an extra step in the middle to get their actual remittance in usable currency in the economy, because still, right, not many merchants accept Bitcoin. From just again from my experience there last week, there's some you can find it, like the hotel that the conference was at, there's like a food court on top that has maybe like 20 restaurants, and out of the 20 restaurants on top in the World Trade Center building, only one of them accepted Bitcoin.
Wow. Well, kind of shifting the conversation here, like when it comes to building a wallet, like I was having this thought the other day, because, at Voltage, we provide infrastructure for wallet backends and different, any type of like just business that's integrating Lightning. And I was thinking to myself, like, I have like 10 or 12 wallets on my phone. I'll test them and then either delete them or just leave them there. And wallets are such a great onboarding tool for Bitcoin, because if the experience is absolutely phenomenal, it can really make orange pilling someone super easy. And I'm curious from your perspective because wallets are one of those things where you can just get it within, a couple of minutes or it can be complex and confusing. Like, what are the biggest challenges you feel wallets need to solve simply outside of the sending and receiving component? Like, are there elements a wallet should contain as far as I won't load the question any further, but what beyond sending and receiving do you think wallets need to do to make Bitcoin adoption accelerate?
Yeah, so like specifically in the Philippines, and I think even much of Southeast Asia is like this, where the e-wallets are loaded with other features, and that's what, like I mentioned, like we're working on adding all these features, these kind of bells and whistles to the e-wallet app, so it becomes like literally the way you do the how to phrase that, like it becomes like your primary wallet, I guess, literally, like you can do everything from it that you'd ever need. So like buying phone data is like one thing that we've already implemented, but other apps have like bills payments like built into the app, because traditionally in the Philippines, if you want to pay a bill, you have to like physically go to an over-the-counter place and bring cash and count your change and bring the actual paper bill that was taped to your door. Like you have to, and that again takes several hours, very very inefficient waste of time, right? And so the only other way to do that now, because billers don't really commonly accept credit cards, is these payment aggregators, like bills payment aggregators have like integrated with billers, and e-wallets are like building this into the e-wallet apps. So in many countries around the world, this is a critical feature in a lightning wallet to just kind of make it useful for everyday life. In the US, not as important, because most people, right, set up auto pay from their bank account or credit card or whatever, and you don't use an e-wallet for that. But in much of the world, that's an e-wallet feature.
Very cool. Okay. Well, what else do you have to share? Like, what are you excited about? Obviously, you're going to be going through a big life change, moving through the Philippines, and it sounds like things at Pouch are really beginning to start accelerating. What's next, or what are you looking forward to most?
Yeah, so I mentioned the Remit API. Just, I guess, big picture wise, just being able to live off of Bitcoin is the dream. So Boracay is kind of a citadel already, I think, because you can 100% live off of Bitcoin. So yeah, in the near term, that's the thing I'm most excited about, is just spending several weeks in Boracay. We actually live in a different. We have our house like where my in-laws live outside of Boracay, a different part of the Philippines. But I'll be definitely going to Boracay very frequently, and start orange pilling our own region as well. So yeah, just seeing that, being able to live the Bitcoin only life, and then being able to watch the transformation happen in person. It's really exciting to me.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, if there's any questions, I mean, feel free anyone to raise your hand, and we can open the conversation up a little bit as well. Does Pouch have a public node? Is it visible on Amboss across the network already?
Yep, pouch.ph is our
Nice.
node alias. Feel free to open a channel. We love inbound liquidity. We're kind of a sink, since we're receiving remittances much more than we're like sending out. Opposite of a node like in a remittance sending country, probably, where it's, yeah, we're receiving.
Well, I know it's the getting very close to the holiday here, so it's a little thinner than usual. But we appreciate you joining. I don't have too much else planned, but is there anything just in closing you'd like to share? Or any information on where folks can learn more? If there's any best podcasts or videos online they should check out to just hear more from you?
Yeah, so go to pouch.ph. That's our website. And then we have a tab for Boracay. That's Bitcoin Island. Come visit, come spend a while, and live off of Bitcoin with us. Would love to see as many Bitcoiners as we can. We
Awesome.
need
And
to
one
actually show the government as well that tourism is picking up. We need to show local businesses that Bitcoin tourists are showing up for real. So yeah, it's very important to us that Bitcoiners make the trip.
Cool. Are there on the website I couldn't find hotels. Like it seems like there's a lot of like restaurants and places like that, but are there any hotels specifically? Or is there a way to like filter by hotels to see which of those accept Bitcoin? Because I know that could probably be the more expensive purchase of visiting.
Yeah, so we just switched to using BTC Maps. So shout out to them. They've built some features just for us, which uh, is awesome. I looks like there's no like way to filter by category, at least in the version embedded in the website. We do have hotels, so maybe we can actually list those out on our website as well with contact info. Hotels that accept Bitcoin payment. And so what we've done before, like we helped someone recently pay with Bitcoin at a hotel, just like got them in touch with the hotel. And what they did is they paid a 50% down payment with Bitcoin. And then when they showed up in person, they paid the rest. Because it's kind of
Yeah,
different than like paying with a credit card where you'll get like pre-authorized or something, and then they just auto bill you when you show up.
I
But
see.
totally doable. We've done it many times by now, and there are a handful of hotels.
Nice. Yeah, that would be awesome to find that because I'm trying to like plan how could I come visit because that is a nice area. It looks like so. Well, that sounds good. Yeah, that would be an awesome blog. Like, which hotels are currently accepting it since that's like the higher ticket piece of visiting. But
Yeah, the
Ethan,
nicest hotel is Red Coconut. That's our favorite.
Red.
Red Coconut Hotel. Maybe like $50 to $100 a night. Cost of living is lower in the Philippines, but Boracay is a little more closer to like international prices, I guess, since it's a very different economy than the rest of the Philippines. But Red Coconut Hotel, they're awesome. It's a beautiful hotel.
Yeah, this looks nice. That's awesome. Beautiful.
So that's
Cool.
the one I'd recommend to everybody.
Right on. Well, great. Well, thanks for joining us and taking some time just here before Thanksgiving. We appreciate it.
Heck yeah! Thanks for having me on. Thanks for
Thank
joining
you,
me,
Ethan.
y'all.